Iran has issued a giant bounty reward for the killing of a member of the Trump family, the president's youngest child, Barron Trump. That threat comes as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announces economic D-Day against Iran.
Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone.
Is this enough to bring down the Iranian regime once and for all? Plus, the Lindsay Clancy murder trial resumes with more prosecution rebuttal witness testimony. Clancy, paralyzed from the waist down, admits to murdering her 3 young children, but has raised the insanity defense. She claims she was experiencing postpartum psychosis and should not be held criminally responsible.
I'm asking you about delusional beliefs and distorted reality, Doctor.
That is a type of psychosis.
Okay.
So I didn't see any evidence of any psychotic features throughout the medical records.
Someone inside the courtroom for that testimony will join me in moments. I'm Greta Van Susteren. This is The Record. Moments ago, President Trump wrapped up an education event at the Rose Garden. He was with Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. Today's event was to celebrate the beginning of the new school year. The White House highlighted what they called the expansion of education freedom.
1 year ago, as part of the great big beautiful bill, we passed the Education Freedom Tax Credit, the largest ever expansion of school choice. And we want, thank you. And we want every parent to have the power to send their child to a high-quality school that shares their values.
Meanwhile, we have an edition of What Do You Think? Some progressives are furious with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Why? Because reportedly he recently met with President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And I suppose under that theory, if there are some progressives mad that the Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries met with Jared Kushner, that the natural question is are the MAGA people upset with Jared Kushner for meeting with Hakeem Jeffries, and have we gotten that crazy?
No, I don't think the MAGA people are mad at Jared Kushner. Candidly, you got 2 people from New York meeting with one another, trying to move the agenda along. I think if you start reading more into it than that, it can be very problematic. I know there's been a lot of reports. Does this mean that Jared Kushner thinks that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms? I don't see it that way. Jared's a very thoughtful business guy. He is always looking for how you can find some kind of consensus. He did in the first Trump administration, and I worked with him both as chief of staff and as a congressman as well. So I don't read too much into it, but if the progressives are mad, that's probably a good day for America.
Well, you know, it's gotten pretty nutty that you can't speak to someone with whom you might not agree, or a different political party in this town, and that when you do, it suddenly becomes a major news story, and people's imagination runs wild. We don't even know for sure if this meeting actually occurred. It's anonymous sources. I mean, it shows the degree of how crazy this town is.
Well, it does, and there's no benefit for reaching across the aisle. Everybody, when you poll it, they say, well, do you want cooperation in Congress? And they say yes. But when you really look at primaries, the answer is a resounding no. I know as one of the most conservative members in Congress, I actually co-sponsored more Democrat bills than any of my colleagues during a 2-year stretch, trying to find that common ground. I don't know that I got applauded for it back home in North Carolina when that happened, though.
Well, you mentioned North Carolina, where you represented. So let me turn to that for a second. A recent poll, and like anonymous sources, I really hate polls more than anything else because they've been shown to be so wildly wrong and thus misleading. But this one from High Point University, I'll put it up there anyway, shows former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper with a 5-point lead over former RNC Chairman Michael Whatley. And if Cooper should win, that will flip the Senate seat from Republican to Democrats. So your thoughts about that? It's right now, it's early, it's not November, but should the Republicans be worried about those polls? I mean, polls can be right, they can be wrong, though.
Well, they can be. I think that those polls will actually tighten a little bit as we get closer to November. Typically, Republicans in polling, even in presidential years, don't poll above in North Carolina because it's a purple state. But here's what the interesting take, Greta, on this. Roy Cooper has been on the ballot as long as I can remember, and whether it was as AG or a governor or in between, and so he's a formidable opponent. I can tell you that Michael Whatley is working unbelievably hard, putting thousands and thousands of miles on his car. But there are two other distinct things that I think will make the pollsters wrong. Very competitive congressional races in the far west and the far east of North Carolina, which actually drives up turnout from conservatives. So I think that you'll see a surprise moment where the pollsters once again get it wrong. Listen, they're not as bad as a 10-day weatherman forecast, but they're getting close to it. And color me skeptical, but polls are generally designed to create some kind of action on behalf of a constituency, not as much as showing what's happening in real terms.
Well, they've had a recent dead wrong in Wisconsin and in Michigan. But let me turn now to South Carolina. There's a runoff tomorrow, and I have a particular interest in it because I moderated the recent debate for Newsmax there, and it's between Senator Darlene Graham and Congressman Ralph Norman. I have no idea who's going to win. But I'm fascinated by that race. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ralph and Elaine are dear friends of mine. It's not to suggest anything bad about Miss Graham, but I can tell you in the upstate of South Carolina, it is overwhelmingly supportive of Ralph Norman. They believe that he's got the track record and the conservative credentials to actually deliver. So I think that this is one that won't be called very early. It'll actually go on pretty late in the evening tomorrow night. And with the limited polling that is out there, I like Ralph's chances. He's crisscrossing the state in spite of the fact that he's been outspent probably $8 or $9 million to 1 with lots of money coming in from Washington, D.C. for Miss Graham.
Well, I'll be interested to see because, you know, he has 5-year terms, 10 years. He says he gets things done. And, of course, not a lot gets done in this town. I suspect, though, that, you know, that one of the things that she might bring to it is that she's brand new. And maybe, you know, I don't know, South Carolina may want to try something brand new. But we'll find out. Well, maybe tomorrow. You think it's going to be a while. We'll find out tomorrow. Mark Meadows, thank you, sir.
Great to be with you. Take care, Greta.
Thank you. Alaska's race for U.S. Senate has not one, not two, but now 3 men named Dan Sullivan involved in the race. It brings to mind this old game show, To Tell the Truth.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is James LaRoe.
Number 2.
My name is James LaRoe.
Number 3.
My name is James LaRoe.
You got to love that. That was a great game. The Alaska U.S. Senate race has incumbent Dan S. Sullivan, former Democratic Congressman Mary Peltola, and the likely challenger and retired teacher Dan J. Sullivan, and another candidate as votes are still being counted in November's general election. But now, a third man named Dan Sullivan is getting involved. He's the former mayor of Anchorage. That Dan Sullivan is backing incumbent Senator Dan S. Sullivan. The former mayor, Dan Sullivan, writes, quote, as the OG, which, by the way, I had to look up what that meant. Now I know OG means tongue-in-cheek, original gangster, Dan Sullivan. I urge Alaskans to vote for Senator Daniel S. Sullivan. He has been great for Alaska, end quote. And coming up, a chilling threat directed at President Trump's youngest son. Plus, you will only hear it here, an American inside a Russian prison speaking to you. That when the record continues.
Donald Trump's second presidency is changing America. Now you need to watch Rob Schmitt tonight on President Trump's next big move. Then tune into Rob Finnerty taking on Trump's critics. President Trump says he watches Newsmax. You should too. Download our Newsmax app to watch us anytime, anywhere. millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Be one.
For all the extra hours and endless meetings, you deserve this. It's the Omaha Steaks Labor Day event, and right now we're offering 50% off site-wide. Order now and you'll get 8 of our famous burgers free when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV.
This is our time, you know? His favorite route is the long way around. Now we can take it again. I'm not sure who loves this freedom more, him or me.
Being out here alone is my happy place. Nature can have its threats, but I'm prepared.
I'm not trying to fight wildlife. I just don't want one bad encounter deciding everything.
Carry confidence wherever you go with Byrna. And now it's the biggest sale ever at Byrna.com.
Free yourself from prying eyes. Ask privately with Duck.ai. Visit Duck.ai to chat privately with ChatGPT, Claude, and other AIs for free, all in one place. Duck.ai is from DuckDuckGo, where AI is private and optional.
When Saturday rolls around, I don't want to jump through hoops to watch college football. Good thing DirecTV makes it easy to keep up with my favorite college teams. No hopping between apps or channels.
Stream college football without the hurdles on DirecTV.
Today, the Trump administration unleashed Operation Economic Outcast. What is that? Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent says it is a campaign against Iran and its supporters. Here is Secretary Bessent with the details.
We are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. President Trump has taken action that his predecessors have long deferred. And under his leadership, America is no longer managing the Iranian threat. We are ending it.
Bessent says President Trump has been on the phone with world leaders with, quote, specific requests, end quote, to suspend trade with Iran. The Treasury Secretary says Iran has 2 choices: complete isolation and a subsistence economy, or a path back to rejoin the global economy. Meanwhile, this should light you on fire. Now Iran has its deadly eyes on first son Barron Trump. A disturbing 3-minute video was shown on Iranian state television calling for the death of President Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump. The latest threat comes as Tehran faces new economic sanctions by the U.S. The video, by the way, is titled "Where to Kill Barron Trump." It claims to show the movements of the 20-year-old, including those at his university, Trump Tower, and on Xbox. According to reports, the Iranian regime has also played a $10 million bounty on Barron Trump's head. Former Deputy Commander of Central Command and former Navy SEAL Vice Admiral Robert Harward joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And the fact that we're moving to economic sanctions, should I read anything into it about what that means in terms of whether bombs and missiles have helped us, have not gotten us to where we need to be?
Well, that's exactly right, Greta. And my hat's off to the secretary there. He made the bold statement that this is now about the government. We're getting rid of the current government in Iran. And we've been doing it militarily. Now we're turning on the economic tools of power. And you're hearing the president reaching out all these countries using the political power. So now this is a whole of government effort to ensure that there's a government in Iran that will not have a nuclear weapon, will recognize the international territories that the Straits of Hormuz are, and will not fund surrogates. So this is exactly what needs to be done. We have to see a change of government in Iran. I think the secretary's articulated it very clearly, and now we're seeing the whole of government effort being brought to bear against Iran.
Here's what worries me. Iran's biggest trading partner is China, and secondary sanctions would necessarily, if they continue to do business with China, would necessarily land on China's head as well. That is where we get most of our components for generic drugs to keep Americans alive in this country for drugs, and we get so much more from China. So how do, I mean, so, you know, it sounds great, but if you dig a little bit deeper, these secondary sanctions can come back and be a real problem for us.
Well, China's got the bigger problem. Without oil and without a market to sell their goods, they've got bigger problems. They've got to feed and keep employed 1.4 billion people in the world. And the American market and the American control of the economies around the world are a big factor in that. So I think China realize they need to be smart in this thing, and they're not going to risk their long-term gains for sacrificing anything to do with Iran. So again, they have been supporting Iran as Russia has been the surrogates, and that's why this effort by the president to take Iran on the table, a government that poses the threat they have been for decades, is so important. It does have ramifications for China.
I guess the question is does China need oil more than we need things like generic drugs is the question. And do they have another market to go to besides Iran for oil? I don't know. I mean, there's a limited number of markets, but this is a bold movement by President Trump, without a doubt.
Well, it's a well-warranted movement by President Trump. I have to salute by him the courage to finally address this for what it is going to have to be. But oil is important to China, but 90% of Iran's oil goes to China at a discounted price. You bring that oil back to the rest of the market and China as well, and they have to pay the go rate that everyone else does, and it makes it a fair market. So again, I don't think it's an existential issue for China. It's an economic issue. They're going to have to pay the same price as anyone else in the world does for oil. And so I don't think they're going to risk everything just for oil. But bringing the Iranian market back, their oil back onto the world market, benefits the people of Iran, Europe, and the whole world economy at large. And that's been demonstrated in the Straits here. So again, this has been China's discounted rate for oil for decades now that they could get regardless of sanctions and other things. And now it aligns it with the world economy and will bring down oil, price of oil gas for Americans and everyone in Europe and everywhere else.
Vice Admiral Robert Harward, always nice to talk to you. Thank you, sir. And a small Russian drone guided by not a human, but artificial intelligence killed a 19-year-old and 2 others. They were at a gas station in Ukraine when struck. The drone used in the 3 deaths comes with a chilling twist. It was guided by an experimental AI system without a human. It is the drone that decides its exact target. Ukrainian military official calls these drones, quote, a risk for the whole world. He also added this dark thought, quote, in a few years, we will be living in a Terminator movie. It's no joke. Machines are making decisions to strike, end quote. According to an AI research institute here in Washington, the attack at the gas station in Ukraine is the first documented case involving civilian deaths caused by self-targeting AI Russian drones. And you know of New Jersey musician Jimmy Wilgus. We've reported about Jimmy many times here, and we've even played his audio recordings to me. Well, Jimmy's been in prison in Russia since November 2017. Jimmy called me this morning and left this audio message. Jimmy tells you about false war reports in Russia and the lack of press freedom. Here's Jimmy Wilgus.
Close by, one of the largest oil refineries in Russia has been attacked multiple times. And just last week, an acquaintance of mine who lives in Moscow was terrified by explosions, fire, and a sky black with smoke right outside her window. Yet, according to the Russian press, none of this is happening. Attacks on Russian soil are not discussed in the news here. The war coverage we are privy to is a perpetual photo op.
In his audio, Wilgus says that disagreeing with President Putin is considered extremism or terrorism. He adds that if a prison guard catches him talking poorly about Russia and the war, he could face an additional 8 to 15 years in prison. Coming up, imagine going to the hospital, receiving the wrong medication, and leaving the hospital paralyzed. Well, that's allegedly what happened at one Tennessee hospital. More on that when the record continues.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
Flags of Fellowship began as a visible act of remembrance and solidarity. This is a conversation about how a symbol can become a bridge.
I cannot, as a Christian pastor, with the Holy Spirit living inside of me, watch what happened on October 7th and be silent.
Their struggle, their plight has landed on good ground in the hearts of Christians.
Yeah.
And they're acting it out visibly.
Pastor Carlos, you are one of the visionaries behind Flags of Fellowship, going church to church, planting Israeli flags to remember the 1,200 lives that were lost, building this unity that we're all talking about.
That's the whole thing, is to take action. We've been putting flags for the past 2 years in all 50 states.
As Christians, we should be the people that not just say we love you, we have to actually display it. And whether that means a flag, whether that means having dinner like this, whether that means having a conversation, our love has to actually be put into action.
We're rooted in Judeo-Christian values. The second we have to start apologizing for that is the second we lose the battle.
That is correct.
I love the concept of Israel. It's a biblical concept and it's an eternal promise. We're also talking about Western values of freedom and equality. That's also part of this Judeo-Christian ethic that flag stands for too.
This year, the Fellowship is distributing 3 million Israeli flags across America.
A physical manifestation allows tangible to become spiritual and reach the divine.
Taking that flag and planting those 1,200 flags to show the Jewish community we're standing with you.
This is a very American thing to do, and I'm proud to plant this flag.
We're joined together because we're all made in the image of God.
Today, I am thankful that I have Christian brothers and sisters behind me planting flags in solidarity.
Join over 2,500 congregations participating this year. Visit ifcj.org/FOF.
If you find yourself stopping more and more to catch your breath, you could be experiencing what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency. Give yourself a boost with Boost Oxygen. A few deep breaths of Boost Oxygen is all you need to help combat the negative effects of what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency.
Now I live life on my terms. With Boost Oxygen, I am unstoppable.
Get all-natural 5-star respiratory support with Boost Oxygen at these fine retailers.
Your mouthwash routine just got a whole lot smarter. Use Smart Mouth Activated Dry Mouth for immediate relief and 12-hour bad breath prevention guaranteed. If your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. Relieve your dry mouth and prevent bad breath. Get activated Smart Mouth.
It's me, Ricky. You know me. You grew up with me. I'm 56 and a half years of age. I am using this right here, Fatty 15, to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient in Fatty 15 has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. And it is a game changer for your overall vitality. I urge you to try Fatty 15. Give your cells what they need and give yourself a chance with more time.
Today, prosecutors in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial called rebuttal witnesses. One you may remember from last week. It was forensic psychiatrist Dr. Avram Mack. Today's rebuttal witness was psychological and brain sciences professor at Drexel University, Kirk Heilbrunn. Here are a few highlights.
I came across, in my evaluation, a period where she worried that people could hear what she was thinking. That's different, first of all, from thought broadcasting. But in either event, as I've said, she was in a serious psychiatric state, and she was suffering.
I asked her the question, when you were experiencing these thoughts, were they like your own thoughts or were they like auditory hallucinations? And she said they were like my own thoughts. And she made it clear that they were unwelcome and intrusive, but they were like my own thoughts. And she didn't get to talking about experiencing auditory hallucinations, as I will talk about a little bit later, until January 24th.
This week, lawyers are expected to deliver their closing arguments. The judge will then instruct the jury on the law of insanity, and then the jury will go behind closed doors and deliberate a verdict. Crime reporter and host of the John Depetro show, John Depetro, joins me. Nice to have you back again, sir. So tell me what tell me about today.
Greta, today, the second doctor that came up rebuttal witness, Dr. Kirk Heilbrunn,
Greta, he is the best witness that this trial has seen. Very, very effective, remarkable. You just saw him on the screen. Remarkable manner. The jury was absolutely glued on him, locked. It was like sort of central casting, talking about only the way a doctor can talk. And he also, he talked very positively about Lindsay. He treated her. He spent 180 hours with her. But what he talked about is how rare it would be for someone to actually, hear voices. That was very powerful for the Commonwealth. He also talked about that in some ways she had some contradictions with the story that she told. The big headline here is Lindsay Clancy comes into court, Greta, and she wears a cross. And there's been testimony that when she was strangling the 3 children, she was saying, "Go to God." And we've heard that now in testimony from several doctors that have testified. And so at the very end of the day, the doctor started talking about that if she wanted to be in heaven, he knows that she's Catholic, it would be a mortal sin. And all hell broke loose. And defense attorney Kevin Reddington approached the bench. They took a break, recess. They came back. And then Kevin Reddington and the defense actually asked for a mistrial, saying that there's this reoccurring theme that they talk about religion. The judge said he was not going to grant a mistrial, but he didn't send the jury home. He told them to disregard that. But I think, Greta, it's because Kevin saw, by and large, Greta, Kevin Reddington has kind of owned the courtroom, and I think you can appreciate that. This is the first witness that we've seen. The jury wasn't even taking notes. They were just absorbing it. It was like a lecture. He has such a style and mannerism about him. He basically said, and this is what it came down to, this is the first time that we've actually heard motive, and that is that she wanted to take her own life, but she didn't want to leave her children behind. So this is the first real doctor. Now, granted, they haven't had a chance to cross-examine him yet, but it was enough that the defense actually seemed rattled.
And I think it's a 12-person jury, but how many women, how many men on the jury about?
Right now, we're still at 18, so we don't know how it's going to fan out. But it's basically there are more women than men. There are, men, but it's more like some balances, at least 10 women. I have it in my notes. I should have gone over before I came on. But we don't know what the final makeup is going to be as far as the 12. But,
so the alternates are unknown. The alternates are the alternates are unknown. You have a universe of 18 jurors, and we don't know who the alternates are.
No, and then they'll select it. But one thing that I noticed is universally all 18, none have been dismissed, were locked on this doctor. The doctor before this, Dr. Mack, was somewhat combative, and Kevin Reddington was going after him. This was a different feel. If the Commonwealth, I don't know who their third final doctor is going to be, but this doctor, the way he laid it out, and Greta, he did it in a very caring manner in which only a doctor can talk.
Right.
You can tell he actually cares about Lindsay Clancy, but he also broke it down into 2 possibilities. And today was the first time we've really heard that it seems called into question. He also talked about accountability. Why someone would say they heard voices. It's so they don't want to have self-accountability.
And with that, we'll probably talk again tomorrow. John Depetro, thank you very much. And at Tennessee hospitals, medication mix-up has left at least 2 paralyzed. The hospital, Ascension St. Thomas Hospital, said that its pharmacy mistakenly gave 4 surgical patients doses of potassium phosphate instead of an anesthetic medication. The hospital says that each suffered, quote, adverse health reactions. Each was getting a routine joint replacement surgery when this error was made. According to local news outlet News Channel 5, families of the patients say the error left 2 patients paralyzed, 1 in the ICU. One of the patients is a 72-year-old Glenda Dorton. She underwent knee surgery, knee replacement surgery, and according to her lawyer, while the surgery itself went very well, the medication mix-up left her paralyzed from the waist down. Her lawyer says that she is, quote, facing a long and uncertain recovery, end quote. Coming up, board-certified OBGYN Jennifer Ashton responds to New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's egg freezing journey. Dr. Ashton talks about the risks and the advantages to the process. That when the record continues.
All across the nation, people can't stop talking about Carl Higbie and Frontline.
for the big news they need to know. Watch Carl Higbie, Frontline, tonight at 6 p.m. Only on Newsmax.
My car insurance bill doubled?
You should try Insurify. In just a few clicks, you can compare rates from dozens of insurance companies. And you could...
I just got the same coverage for half the price.
Hey, that's what I was going to say. Go to Insurify.com and save up to $1,000 a year on your car insurance.
Satellite internet that's fast, reliable, and installed by professionals. For work, for play, for every day. Available anywhere you call home. Visit Viasat.com/internet now or call 833-8Viasat to sign up today.
This is our time, you know? His favorite route is the long way around. Now we can take it again. I'm not sure who loves this freedom more, him or me.
Being out here alone is my happy place. Nature can have its threats, but I'm prepared.
I'm not trying to fight wildlife. I just don't want one bad encounter deciding everything.
Carry confidence wherever you go with Byrna. And now it's the biggest sale ever at Byrna.com.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. With Ethos, it's so fast and easy. Get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Whoa! Ahoy! Cologuard Plus detects 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Nice catch!
False positive and negative results may occur. The Cologuard Plus test is not for those at high risk.
There's a reason the wealthy don't keep all their money in one place. We work hard our entire lives to build wealth for retirement. If your retirement dropped 30% tomorrow, would you be ready? Or would you just have to wait and hope it comes back? The last thing any of us wants is to watch our retirement accounts shrink every time Wall Street panics, the dollar drops, or global uncertainty rises. That's why so many successful Americans turn to gold to help protect their retirement. And Preserve Gold is the only precious metals company I trust and recommend. Let me be frank, gold is not for everybody. And I do not give financial advice, but I do urge you to get my free wealth protection guide from Preserve Gold and learn about a special offer to receive up to $20,000 in free gold and silver. Education is power.
Text Newsmax to 50505.
People always ask me how I stay ready, how I lock in when it actually counts. They think I must be on something. It's pure, it's potent, it's all me. Something that never lets me down. Armra. I'm on it.
A health update from New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Over the weekend, the Congresswoman posted on social media that she finished her egg retrieval process. Here is AOC after the procedure.
I was fully asleep for the entire procedure, and I was genuinely surprised when I woke up in my prep room. As soon as I opened my eyes, my first thought was, did the procedure happen? Or did they have to wheel me out because we're waiting for something? After I was done and ready, I walked out and I went into one of the offices and was informed of my final count, both in the number of eggs retrieved and which of those eggs were mature. Out of respect for all the different kinds of fertility and family journeys that people have, I will not be sharing my specific numbers.
Earlier this month, AOC announced that she would be freezing her eggs to feel more in control of her life. And earlier today, I spoke with board-certified OBGYN and obesity medicine physician, Dr. Jennifer Ashton. Dr. Ashton, always nice to see you.
So good to see you, Greta.
All right, I think this is an important topic. I want to talk to only you because you've done so much television on medicine, taught us so much, and this is pretty much your area as well. But the idea of AOC, Congresswoman, going public about something so deeply personal, and does that help others?
I think in general, it always helps the greater good when someone with a platform comes forward to address a personal health or medical issue. I think, number one, it increases awareness. Number two, in many cases, it can help to reduce social stigma that's associated with any of these health issues or conditions or diseases, diagnoses. But as you know, the devil is always in the details, and it's the way in which that's communicated. And it's not just communicating information for the sake of communicating information. It's then what is the viewer or listener or the general public going to actually do with that information that I think is really where the nuance lives.
Well, someone we probably both know, Katie Couric did the colonoscopy and put it on TV about 25 years ago, and no one ever discussed that issue. And she made it, quote, safe to talk about it, to have colonoscopies. Probably saved a lot of lives.
Oh, no question. And you can just keep going down the list of celebrities or public figures who have had health issues. And they do what our friend Robin Roberts says. They make their message. And in doing so, 100% it saves lives in many, many cases. So I think overall, I'm kind of a glasses half full type of person. I think generally it's a good thing.
How long can you freeze your eggs? Is there a limit to how long these eggs can be frozen?
Nope, they can really stay in cryopreservation, AKA on ice, indefinitely. But when you think about how far the technology, it's called assisted reproductive technology, or ART, has come over the last 20, 30 years, 40 years, this is now much more mainstream. It still needs to be more accessible in terms of cost. You know, one egg freezing cycle runs between $10,000 and $15,000, and then there's a much less expensive cost to keep those on ice, keep those cryopreserved in the tank indefinitely, much more on the order of $100 or a couple of $100 a year. You know, but 20 years ago, this was much more expensive. It was much more experimental, and it was whispered about. It wasn't spoken about as much.
If it costs $10,000 to $15,000 each time you try to retrieve eggs, about how many of these, playing the odds, or can't you do that? How many retrievals do you have to do in order to have success down the road?
So you just asked literally the million-dollar question in the sweet spot of this issue, Greta. First of all, you use the word odds, which is really important because this is a probability game. It's not an insurance policy. There are a lot of variables there, but the big ones are the woman's age at the time when she donates. Okay. And then remember, it's not just a matter of how many eggs, which can vary from 7 to over 20 per retrieval. Again, based on the woman, her age, et cetera. It's the probability of getting one live birth down the road. And that number for all comers, women of all ages, hovers around 28 to 30%. So it is not a guarantee that you will take a baby home from the hospital, but it does increase the odds. And I think that women need to be aware of that. I think that the way I like to phrase it is this shifts the paradigm from talking about infertility, which is a problem that needs to be solved, to one of talking about fertility and being more proactive about that down the road. And I am thinking / hoping that that's the stage we're finally in right now, which is a really good thing for women's health.
In terms of if you can afford it, if it's something that's right for you and it's something that's within your religion, your ethics, or whatever it is there any risk to the mother to retrieve them?
There is always a risk. And, my own daughter, whom she's in law school right now, she did this about a year ago when she was about 25, 26. She had planned on this for about 5 years since she was in college. By the way, she's engaged. So this wasn't really done for social reasons. It was done really more for potential medical reasons down the road. I think that when women consider doing this, they need to realize that it may or may not be needed. It's an option It's one of the things at their disposal. And I kind of put it under the same category as collecting umbilical cord stem cell blood at the time of delivery. This is now an option for many people. By the way, a lot of employers are covering it. But there are always risks. And I've said many, many times publicly in the media, this is not like going to get a manicure or a haircut. There can be risks of infection. There can be risks of a less common condition known as OHSS, or ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. There can be risks of bleeding when the doctor goes and does the egg harvest or retrieval procedure. So, women need to be aware of that. It's all about risk benefit and how much risk is appropriate or acceptable based on the possible benefit that woman might be getting in the future.
One quick last question is, as you grow older, do you have less eggs? So you're going to have to probably have more retrievals to get that optimum amount to beat the odds?
Yes, of course. Egg number and egg quality goes down with age, pretty dramatically. Starts really at age 30, believe it or not. So mid to late 20s, if you had to say an ideal window of time, it would be the decade in a woman's 20s where she would consider doing this. And, I actually think that we're going to rapidly be at a time where OBGYNs or family practitioners, nurse practitioners that are seeing women for their well visits could potentially be held medical legally liable, to delve into your lane a little bit, if they fail to counsel a woman that elective egg freezing is an option. I think that's the place where we're kind of at right now, that it's more mainstream, it's more affordable, and fertility is being affected by a host of factors, not just social and behavioral and choice, but environmental factors. And that if a woman gets to a point where she is unable to use her own eggs and have a baby, I think that there will be someone, it's only a matter of time in the legal system, that looks back and says, why didn't your doctor counsel you about this as an option? And ultimately, again, I'm very anti-medical legal litigation, but I think the fact that we're at a place where it is more of the well-woman dialogue and conversation is really a good thing.
Dr. Jennifer Ashton, always nice to see you. Of course, you're my friend. I call you doctor, but you're my friend too. Anyway,
you're my
thank you very much.
Always happy to be on with you.
It's always nice to have you. Thank you. A popular dog food brand is being recalled. Why? Potential metal contamination. The dog food maker From Family Foods announced that it was recalling more than 5,000 cases of two of its canned dog food products. The two products are Turkey Pate wet dog food and Diner Classics, Milo's Meatloaf Pate wet dog food. The company says that consumers should stop feeding their dogs those two products. According to the recall notice, quote, dogs ingesting metal may exhibit symptoms such as choking, vomiting, loss of appetite, lethargy, or stomach discomfort, end quote. As of now, there have been no reports of illnesses or injury. Coming up, a pastor in Michigan is fed up. Find out why when the record continues.
I'm a United States Army veteran. When I lost my eyesight in Desert Storm, I also lost my independence. The moment I put on my Ray-Ban Meta glasses, I got my independence back.
Hey, Meta, read this letter.
Don, I wanted to personally thank you.
Hey, Meta, where's the blue shirt?
That's the one.
Hey, Meta, where's the flag?
It's just to the right of you.
Meta is donating Ray-Ban Meta glasses to every blind veteran in America.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that beats it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been a physician for 4 decades. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time, and Fatty 15 is one product that actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. A brilliant veterinarian realized that dolphins get disease much like humans. She looked at what predisposed to those problems, isolated the molecule, gave it to the animals, they didn't get the problem. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. Cell health equals physical health. That's why I take Fatty 15.
An Erie metal roof is built to outlast just about anything life can throw at it. Like a lifetime of hailstones playing hardball. Or scorching summer temps. Plus, they'll outlast your mortgage with a 50-year transferable warranty. Get a free consultation with Erie Home. Call or click today.
Thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
Hi, I'm Mike Hammond with Signal Relief. If your back bothers you day after day, you know it doesn't just affect your back. It changes how you stand, walk, sleep, and how you feel about yourself. Maybe you smile through the grandkids' game, the grocery store, the yard work, or the family trip, quietly counting the minutes until you must sit down, or maybe you just miss those moments altogether. I know how frustrating it is when your body starts making decisions for you. And that's why I'm proud to introduce Signal Core, our new back support system built specifically for everyday backaches. More technology means more relief, and Signal Core has twice the technology as the original patch. And it comes with our money-back guarantee. It's targeted drug-free back support that you can wear through the day. Try Signal Core today by going to signalrelief.com and order your Signal Core.
In Dearborn, Michigan, at a city council meeting, religious tensions erupted. The population of Dearborn is a Muslim majority. Here's Pastor Lorenzo Sewell speaking to city leaders.
You have seen what has happened in this city, and it is my people that have funded you. It's my people that made sure that you have what you have, and you spit on us, you degrade us, but you're only 1% of this nation. We are not a nation of Muslims. We are a nation of Christians. We are one nation under God, indivisible. America, we have lost this city. This is a city that is no longer up under American laws. We are up under Sharia law, and we will not have it anymore. Enough is enough.
On Friday, I spoke with senior pastor of 180 Church, that's the name of his church in Detroit, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell. Senior pastor of 180 Church in Detroit, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And we saw the videotape where you were speaking. And what provoked your passion, sir?
Our city is in a situation where the demonic Democratic Party has used Islam to decimate and destroy Black people. I mean, think about it. Detroit is the largest voting block in Michigan, and Dearborn only has approximately 100,000 people. So think about it. Our budget's $3 billion. Their budget's only $150 million. But can you imagine owning all the grocery stores, the gas stations, all of the essential businesses, all the things you need to live as an American Arab zone in our community? In Dearborn, the city of Dearborn has become a city that's up under Sharia law. They don't allow us to read the Bible. They don't allow us to have our First Amendment rights because Jake Lang, he was speaking about Jesus, and you can't imagine it. He was beaten, he was bruised, he had to run for his life, and the police did absolutely nothing. So we were giving them an opportunity on Tuesday to see if they would be willing to renounce Sharia law. And it was so sad that we just lost a great American city. Dearborn is not up under American law anymore. It's up under Sharia law.
Explain something to me. I thought that Jake Lang, who you're speaking about, because he was at a protest, that there were 3 people who were arrested, charged with assault and battery, and charged under Michigan state law, not under Sharia law, but charged under Michigan state law.
Yeah, it was very interesting because when you see that, what you begin to realize is that there were dozens of people that we saw hitting Jake, stoning Jake, running after Jake. And you can see in the screen here, the police did not arrest them. Where in the city of Dearborn, if you're Black and you go shoplifting, right? If you shoplift, but yet try to elude the police, they shoot you. I'm 45 years old. I've lived in this community my entire life. And I know that Dearborn knows how to enact justice. But right here, as you can see, the police officer makes 0 arrests in that moment. Yes, later on, they did arrest 3 people, but there were dozens of people there trying to, quite frankly, hurt Jake and trying to take his life.
Are you, I mean, I caught you, what you caught my attention by saying, are you unable to read the Bible in Dearborn? Are you saying, or are you just saying there's a lot of peer pressure? I know that it's 50%, more than 50% Arab American in Dearborn, but are you saying that you can't even read the Bible, or just that you feel uncomfortable?
There was a pastor last year that stood before the mayor. Can you imagine this? And he just said he wanted to be able to have signs up during Easter, wanted to be able to have church bells, and he was rebuked by the mayor of Dearborn. We are one nation under the God of the Bible. This is a nation where you should be able to practice your religion, but Sharia law and Islam is not a religion. Remember 9/11? It's a death cult. It's a place where you shed your blood and you try to kill infidels, and in that death cult, guys, is a religion. Allah Akbar, that is a opportunity for you to shed your blood to Allah and shed infidels' blood. And this is Islam. We are one nation under the God of the Bible, and we should be a nation where you could be able to worship the Lord Jesus Christ freely without worrying about violence.
In recognition of the fact that the Constitution governs all of us, an opportunity for all of us, is there something in particular that you think should be done, or some constitutional right that's being denied, or something? I understand. I mean, I watched your tape. I can see you're passionate about the topic. But is there something that's being done that's unlawful or in contravention of the Constitution, or that you want done?
Well, when I look at our Constitution, specifically the First Amendment, the freedom of religion, when I look at the freedom of speech, if this was a religion, it would fall up under every other religion, but this is not a religion. How do I know that? Because when we look at every other religion, they assimilate to America. In Islam, they've not come to assimilate, they've come to conquer. Because there are 57 other countries where you can dress the way you want to dress. In Islam, you can eat your halal meat. You can be able to have your multiple wives. You can do that in those other countries. Well, why aren't they in those other countries? Because they're not looking to assimilate. They're looking to conquer. And that's the history of Islam. I would want us to be able to declare that if you're practicing Islam in America, you need to go to a country whereby that's practiced, instead of being here and not assimilating and playing your call to prayer, right? Eating your halal meat, having your women dress in a way that, quite frankly, our women don't dress. If you want to do that, that's fine. Go to another country. Here in America, we believe in the freedoms to be able to enjoy real religion and not the fake religion of Islam.
Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you come back, sir. It's a big discussion. These are big issues to talk about. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta.
I do want to note, on Saturday, one day after my interview with Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, activist Jake Lang, who was mentioned in the interview we just played, was arrested. Lang was arrested at a planned rally outside Minneapolis City Hall. The protest drew counter-protests, which led to clashes on the ground. Lang was in a car that drove onto a sidewalk during the clashes. That car was tracked down, and everyone in the car was arrested. Lang was taken to the hospital to be evaluated. Once he was medically cleared, he was later taken to jail. Coming up, another rowdy crowd in Minnesota gives police a migraine. Police had to get creative. That one, the record continues.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
I'm Rob Riggle, actor, comedian, and former United States Marine. Tunnel to Towers is outstanding. This organization does a really good job of honoring its promises.
Oh my God.
And the way they help first responders and veterans. So that's why I'm involved. There are ways you can help T2T on their mission to do good. Just $11 a month can transform the lives of our veterans. Go to T2T.org for more information on how a small contribution can make a big difference.
This is our time, you know? His favorite route is the long way around. Now we can take it again. I'm not sure who loves this freedom more, him or me.
Being out here alone is my happy place. Nature can have its threats, but I'm prepared.
I'm not trying to fight wildlife. I just don't want one bad encounter deciding everything.
carry confidence wherever you go with Byrna. And now it's the biggest sale ever at Byrna.com.
Pain kept slowing me down. Then I tried new KT Menthol pain relief patches. Unlike other patches that only mask pain, KT increases blood flow to help accelerate healing. So don't give up. Tape up. New KT Menthol pain relief patches.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
We all want more. More progress. More glory. More wins. But what we're really chasing is more life. Add more life to your years. Whoop, the official fitness wearable of the PGA Tour.
Most people call leaf filter when their gutters are clogged and they notice one of the many issues that can bring. You can get ahead of costly damage by protecting your home's gutters today.
Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Honey, Mortgage Bunny 6 says we should keep renting.
Mortgage Bunny 6?
Reba says more realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. They track every market so you know when to make your move.
He also says that Bigfoot... Got it.
Make it real with Realtor.com.
A police officer in Minnesota didn't learn this in the police academy. He had to wrangle an utterly, yes, utterly rowdy group. The herd of cows escaped their farm. An officer found them near a busy street. It was up to him to usher them back home. How did he do it?
Go on, cows.
After doing the unthinkable at first, ignoring the lawful order of a police officer, the cows did finally give up and they did make it home. No tickets or citations were issued. They are apparently first offenders. And don't forget, I have a podcast called Greta Wire. You will like it. It's different. You can subscribe right now on your favorite podcast app. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at newsmax.com/listen. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take is next. Stay with Newsmax.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.